Dr. Hengari, good evening once again, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
First things first, what is the focus of the President's trip to China?
Well, as you know, China has been an all-weather friend of Namibia, supported the country during the liberation struggle, and since independence has continued to support Namibia in several domains. And this state visit comes at a very critical time in the history of our country. We are facing a few challenges. Unemployment is one of them. So the hope that we have for the visit is to be able to increase cooperation with China with a view to dealing with the challenges we are facing in Namibia.
In your statement, you said, and I quote, Namibia has a lot to learn from China, especially around its model of lifting over 800 million people out of poverty. Can you please just touch on this more for us?
Yes, the President has emphasized poverty eradication as one of the key aspects of his presidency, and also resulting in shared prosperity for the majority of Namibians. China, as we know, and as the President stated, has been able to lift 800 million people out of poverty in a period of 4 decades. So as a small country, but one with a big heart, Namibia has a lot to learn from China in several areas, including poverty eradication, infrastructure development, technology, as well as innovation.
All right, certainly. The President will once again also be traveling commercial. Are you able to share or just shed some light with us in terms of the delegation that will be accompanying the President on his trip?
The President has chosen a commercial flight, and that is in line with his call that government should cut costs. And I must emphasize that it's not necessarily the most effective mode of travel, because in terms of travel time, it takes longer to get to China. But the President wants to lead by example.
All right. On the part of the business delegation that will be accompanying the President, will they be covering their own costs, or will this also be covered by
Yes,
the state?
certainly. Business people have been invited to join into the trip, because the business forum is a very important component of Namibia-China relationships. So they will be covering for their own cost. So far, 60 business people have confirmed, but I think the final tally might be between 40 to 55.
Going back to the trip itself, are there any specific agreements that are expected to be signed during this particular visit?
Yes, certainly. It's a state visit, and the level is quite strategic, and it ought to be impactful, and it will be. There are several agreements that have expired in the China-Namibia relationship, and maybe it's important to preface that point by saying that since 2005, the Namibia-China relationship has been governed by an Economic and Trade Commission, which has last met in 2007. And as you can imagine, a lot has happened in that period. So what the President is trying to achieve is to bring the relation between Namibia and China up to date. Several agreements are likely to be signed and will be signed. One of them is the space tracking and telemetry command station, where Namibia has been assisting China in its space program. This station is based in Swakopmund, so that agreement has expired in 2015. So it's going to be updated, and also it will include new elements that will benefit Namibia quite substantially. And conversations are likely to deepen around a bilateral air services agreement, whose objective is to ensure that more Chinese tourists come to Namibia, because as you know, China has a huge market, and the potential for those tourists to reach Namibia is quite huge. We have a beautiful country, and we have to make sure that we promote it effectively.
Correct. Certainly exciting stuff indeed. Dr. Hengari, thank you once again for making the time to join us.
Thank you very much.